The fog was alive. It writhed between twisted trees, swallowing the woodland floor in a dense, unnatural shroud. The only warmth came from a single, flickering lantern, its pale flame held steady by a hooded figure with hollow eyes. Ardyn had heard the rumors. The lantern keeper guides lost souls, but follow too close, and you'll join them. Yet here he was, boots soaked from the marsh, his heart pounding in his chest. His sister, Mera, had vanished into these cursed woods, and the keeper was his only chance. The figure moved without sound, gliding over the earth.
You search for another.
A dry, whispering voice drifted from beneath the hood.
But every guide demands a toll.
Ardyn's breath misted in the cold air.
Name it.
The keeper turned, revealing not a face but a void, endless and hollow.
A memory. One you hold dear.
The woods seemed to watch, the trees leaning closer, their bark like twisted faces frozen in agony. Ardyn clenched his fists.
Take it,
he said. His father's laughter, his favorite childhood memory, slipped away like smoke. The lantern flared, and the keeper gestured forward.
Follow, but remember, some who enter the lantern's path are found. Others,
the whisper cracked with amusement,
are kept.
Ardyn felt the cold fingers of unseen things brush his shoulders as he stepped deeper into the dark. The lantern's glow, the only thing between him and the abyss. The pale glow of the lantern keeper's light barely pierced the shifting fog, casting fleeting shadows on gnarled trees that seemed to breathe. Ardyn could feel the emptiness in his chest, where his father's laughter once lived. The keeper drifted ahead, its cloak trailing like smoke.
Step carefully,
the keeper warned.
The woods remember, and it hungers.
Ardyn's boots sank into the soft earth, and a cold, wet gasp sounded beneath him. He froze. Fingers, skeletal and slick with mud, grasped at his ankle. A chorus of faint pleading voices rose from the ground. Stay, with us. He tore free, stumbling back as hollow faces emerged from the swamp, faces of the kept.
Are they souls?
Ardyn's voice trembled. The keeper's reply was cold.
Remnants, travelers without a guide. Their toll was too great.
Ardyn's heart skipped a beat.
Is Imerad among them?
The lantern flickered, its light bending to the side, illuminating a faint trail through the fog.
Not yet,
the keeper hissed.
But her time is thinning.
Without waiting, Ardyn pushed forward past the keeper. The woods twisted around him, every path wrong, every shadow watching. The trees cracked and groaned, their bark splitting to reveal eyes, bloodshot and blinking, tracking his every move. Then he heard it, a faint cry.
Ardyn.
Mera.
He ran, branches slicing his arms, roots clawing at his boots. He burst into a clearing, and there she was, his sister, trapped in a cage of thorned brambles. Her skin pale, her lips blue.
Help me,
she gasped, the thorns tightening around her with every breath. The lantern keeper appeared, floating beside him.
Let her go. I will do anything.
Ardyn could barely breathe, frantically panting from worry for his sister. The keeper agreed,
but on one condition.
It leaned in.
A second toll.
Ardyn's fists shook with anger.
Take it. Take anything. Just let her go.
The keeper's hollow void tilted toward him.
A choice, your sister's freedom, or your path back.
Ardyn's blood ran cold.
You mean I'll be trapped?
The keeper's whisper chilled his soul.
She will walk free, but you will join the kept.
Mera's eyes met his, wide with terror.
No, Ardyn.
Ardyn's voice was soft but steady.
Take me.
The keeper's lantern flared, and with it, Ardyn's world unraveled. His memories, his childhood, his laughter, his joy, rushed from him like a river into the void. The thorns around Mera shattered. She collapsed, gasping for air.
Ardyn?
She turned. He was gone. Only the fog and the faintest flicker of the lantern remained, drifting deeper into the abyss. Mera's scream pierced the woods. But Ardyn was now one with the fog, and somewhere, in the cold, endless dark, a hollow whisper carried his name. Kept. The woods trembled as Mera gasped for air. Her body shook from the thorn's grip. The fog shifted, and the lantern keeper, cold, hollow, and silent, floated before her.
Your path,
it whispered, the lantern's pale flame bending to a break in the trees,
is clear.
Mera's heart pounded.
Where is Arden?
The keeper's whisper curled through the mist.
He is kept.
Mera's fists clenched, but she felt the woods closing in, the unseen, the lost, waiting. With a sob of anguish, she ran, following the path, the keeper's dim glow guiding her. The fog thinned, and cold mud gave way to familiar earth. She broke through the tree line, the cursed woods behind her. The village bell clanged as Mera stumbled into the square, her face pale, her clothes tattered.
Help!
She cried, her voice raw.
Arden, he.
Villagers rushed forward, Edrin, the blacksmith, with his soot-stained hands, Mera, the healer, wiping her brow with worry. "Easy, child," said Elder Ferron, his eyes sharp with concern. "What happened?" Mera's voice trembled with grief.
Arden, he gave himself. To save me.
A murmur of dread rippled through the crowd. "The lantern keeper," Edrin spat.
That thing has taken enough from us.
Mera's voice was sharp. "My sister vanished in those woods, and my boy," another shouted, faces twisted with rage and loss. Elder Ferron's voice cut through. "The keeper steals from us, our loved ones, our lives, no more." His eyes blazed. "We will trap it, and take back what it has stolen." The crowd roared in agreement, their sorrow igniting into fury. By nightfall, the villagers gathered at the woodland's edge, torches painting the fog in an orange haze. They had drawn a circle of iron and salt, laced with runes taught by old forgotten tongues. "It will come," Ferron declared, "if it believes there's another soul to claim." Mera stepped into the circle.
I'll be the bait. It knows me.
The villagers hid, breathless, behind trees. The forest seemed to listen. And then, the lantern's pale glow pierced the fog. The keeper hovered forward, a wisp of shadow and nothingness beneath its cloak. The lantern's light pulsed as it spoke.
You wander too close, child. Your toll has been paid. There is no return.
Mera stood tall.
I'm not here to bargain.
Mera then dropped her torch, causing the runes to flare, iron and salt igniting in a ring of searing light. The keeper's cloak rippled, and for the first time, it staggered. The villagers emerged, triumph flashing in their eyes as the keeper twisted, its lantern flickering erratically. "We have it," Edrin bellowed. "Now," cried Ferron, "break the lantern, free the souls." The crowd surged forward, their aim on the keeper's lantern. They get hold of it, shattering it into pieces. But there was no release. There was only hunger. The pale flame erupted, splitting into countless shadows. Howls, agonized, enraged, tore through the air as the lost souls, unshackled, screamed into the night. And then they turned, eyes empty, ravenous, fixed upon the villagers. The first soul ripped through Edrin, his body collapsing as his shadow stood, hollow and cold. Screams tore through the square as the souls, faceless, formless, descended, sweeping through flesh and bone, taking and keeping. Mera ran, the world crumbling around her. The bell clanged wildly before the tower shattered in a burst of cold, unnatural force. The fog, the forest, the keeper's embrace. It was no longer contained. The village was no longer a village. The air grew silent, unnaturally so, and in that silence, a faint, distant whisper. But it was not the keeper's voice. It was familiar, soft, broken.
Mera.
Mera ran through the shattered remains of her village, the screams of the living and the howls of the dead merging into chaos. The unleashed souls, twisted echoes of the lost, swarmed through the streets, their hollow forms devouring everything they touched. She stumbled over fallen timbers, her hands scraped and bloodied. A soul swept past, a faceless, shadowed form, and she felt its cold hunger graze her skin. She barely escaped its pull, diving behind a crumbled wall. Her heart racing as she pressed herself against the splintered wood, her breath shallow and quick. Through the cracks, she saw the destruction, homes reduced to rubble, villagers fleeing or falling, only to rise again, hollow and wrong. A voice, cold and broken, rattled through her mind.
Mera.
She froze. It was faint, distant, yet unmistakable.
Arden?
She whispered, her voice shaking. She rose, ignoring the burn in her limbs, and followed the voice through the wreckage. The village square was unrecognizable. The great bell, once the heart of the village, lay in ruin, its iron frame shattered. The souls circled above it like vultures, their hollow eyes searching for prey. Mera darted between shadows, The whisper came again, more urgent.
This way.
Her eyes darted to the woodland's edge. She paused, her body trembling with fear. The cursed woods had already taken everything.
But Arden...
She ran. The fog closed around her, swallowing the world behind her. The air grew colder, and the earth beneath her feet felt soft and shifting, like it wanted to pull her under. She stumbled, crashing to her knees. Her hands met something cold and sharp, shattered glass, the remnants of the keeper's lantern. The shards still pulsed with a faint dying glow. A shape emerged from the mist, a man.
Arden!
She gasped, her voice breaking. But the figure before her was wrong. His face, her brother's face, was pale and sunken, his eyes recognizable, his form wreathed in shadow. The fog clung to him like chains.
Mira,
His voice was cracked and distant.
you shouldn't be here.
Her heart broke at the sight of him.
What has it done to you?
His form flickered, like a candle struggling against the wind.
They keep me, but it is not too late to save the village.
A hollow shriek pierced the air. The souls had found her. They surged from the trees, their mouths stretching wide in soundless hunger. Arden's hand shot out.
Run.
But Mera stood her ground.
No,
She said, her voice firm despite her terror.
not without you.
Arden's eyes, still his, locked with hers.
There's only one way.
His voice trembled.
The keeper must return.
Mera's blood ran cold.
You can't mean...
She choked, but she felt it. The woods, the souls, the chaos. It was unbound, a force without a vessel. The lantern keeper hadn't controlled the souls. It had kept them. Without it, the souls were endless, aimless, consuming. Her heart broke.
Arden, if I restore the keeper, what happens to you?
The shadows flickered around him, and in that brief moment, she saw it, his chains, forged from the fog, bound not by death, but by toll. He was kept, his voice a whisper.
You know the price.
Her breath hitched, her hands trembled. The keeper had demanded memories, but this would be more than a memory. It would be him. The souls closed in, shrieking. The sky above cracked with cold, unnatural light. Mera's chest heaved, her tears burning hot against her cheeks. She reached out and took Arden's hand. A spark. The shards of the broken lantern flared. The woods shuddered. Light, cold and blinding, rushed through the fog. The souls halted, their forms twisting in agony, then screaming, were pulled back, consumed by a singular force. The shattered glass rose from the earth, each shard finding its place. The lantern, whole once more, blazed with pale, unforgiving fire. And there, before it, a figure stood, a cloak of shadows, a hollow face, and within the void, eyes that were familiar. The fog settled, the chaos was gone. The souls vanished. The village silent, broken, but still. Mera fell to her knees, her body shaking, her heart shattered. The figure, the lantern keeper, floated above her, its cold, endless gaze fixed upon her. But when it spoke, the voice, soft, pained, and known.
Mera.
The keeper's flame flickered, and within its endless void, her brother's eyes stared back. The woods were silent. Mera knelt on the cold earth, her heart hollow. The pale lantern flickered before her, cold, distant, merciless. And he was gone. The keeper hovered, its form shifting with the mist, a hollow void where her brother had been. His voice, his warmth, vanished into the endless abyss. She could feel him, within, part of the flame, part of the kept. The ground blurred through her tears.
I'm so sorry.
She whispered, her voice broken. She choked on her words, grief tightening around her throat.
I didn't want this.
The lantern's pale flame flickered softly. The village behind her was in ruin, silent, ash-covered, the souls gone. Saved because the keeper had returned. But the cost was Arden. The night's wind carried the echoes of all she had lost, her home, her family, him. She looked up, her eyes burning, and for the first time, she confronted the keeper.
You took everything.
The keeper hovered, hollow and still, her fists tightened.
You stole my brother.
The lantern's flame wavered, a pale pulse.
You speak of tolls, of memory, of loss.
Her voice broke into a whisper.
Then take me.
The fog stirred. The The keeper's voice, soft, cold, slipped through the air.
You would give yourself?
Mira's throat ached.
You have him, so take me, let him go.
The lantern's glow dimmed.
Your life cannot break the toll.
She faltered, her breath shaky.
Then what will?
The flame pulsed, slow, mournful.
A keeper must always keep. But a keeper may also release.
Her heart stopped. The hollow shape of the keeper seemed to fold, its form flickering, shivering. The lantern trembled, light cracking from within. The flame within the lantern flared, wild and erratic, its pale hue burning gold, then blue, then a blinding white. The woods shuddered, the wind stilled, and then silence. The keeper retreated back into the woods, leaving Mira there alone. Mira's world was silent, but for a breath, a single trembling breath behind her. She turned, and there, eyes, soft, warm, human.
Arden.
She whispered, her voice breaking. He stood, whole. His eyes met hers, filled with confusion, wonder, and recognition.
Mira.
His voice, real, raw, and his. Her legs gave out, and she collapsed into his arms, her sobs breaking through the silence as he held her tight, warm, living.
You.
She couldn't breathe, couldn't think, only feel.
I thought you.
His voice trembled. He paused, his hands shaking as they held her.
I was kept.
His eyes darted towards the cursed woods.
It.
His voice caught.
It let me go.
A whisper, soft, final.
Some are found.
Then nothing. The woods was no longer looked at as cursed, its fog lifted, its hunger gone. The village, though scarred, would rebuild. Mira and Arden stood side by side at the woodland's edge, the earth beneath their feet cold but quiet. He held her hand, warm, real, and Mira. She felt the loss, the pain, but also the gift. The keeper, whatever it had been, was different in her eyes. It was a merciful guardian. She turned to Arden, her voice soft but certain.
Let's go home.